Hello all, today's video is something a little different. Today, I'm going to be going over the history of the boys' anti-tank rifle. Documentary videos are something I've wanted to do for a while now, and hopefully this first one comes out really good. Anyway, the boys' anti-tank rifle was often nicknamed the elephant gun. Rightfully so, too, because its size is its most noticeable characteristic, measuring in at about 5 feet 2 inches, or about 1.6 meters long. It fired a .55 caliber round specially created for the rifle. It was, most impressively, bolt-operated and could hurl 13.9 millimeter bullets at around 2,900 feet per second. There were two types of rounds used for the gun. A 60-gram round, an armor-piercing, which could penetrate around 23 millimeters of steel. In essence, it was a good anti-vehicle weapon. Finally, in 1943, an armor-piercing composite rigid tungsten core projectile was developed that could penetrate 27 to 30 millimeters of steel. Despite having a muzzle brake, recoil slide, and cushioned butt pad, the boys' rifle was painful to fire, often causing bruised shoulders, according to some soldiers. The boys' rifle was often used in early World War II engagements, typically 1930 to 1940, where it fared well against early German tanks. Against the Panzer I, it was very easy to destroy, having just around 13 millimeters of frontal armor. Another German vehicle that was prone to the boys' anti-tank rifle's fire was the Panzer II, having just 15 millimeters of frontal armor. After the new Panzer III and Panzer IVs came out, the boys' rifle was no longer effective against tanks. It was phased out of factory production in 1943, but it did continue to see frontline duty against trucks, armored cars, and even as a long-range sniper. It was also used by Finland in the Winter War against Soviet T-26 tanks. Two of the more notable actions in which the boys' anti-tank rifle was used, ironically, were not used by the British. The first notable action was in the 1942 Makin Island raid. During this daring raid on the Pacific Island, the boys' rifle saw considerable use. At around 6:30 in the morning, the boys' rifle fired the first shot at a Japanese infantry truck, which hit the engine and immobilized it. Later that day on Makin Island, after being strafed by Japanese seaplanes, Platoon Sergeant of A Company ordered the anti-tank rifles to open fire on the aircraft. The first victim of the fire was a light seaplane, an E-8N1 single-seat seaplane aircraft. As the aircraft taxied in to rearm, it was hit by a single .55 caliber boys' rifle round, which then caught the aircraft on fire and blew it up. The second victim was an absolutely huge H-8K 4-engine seaplane, which had a long range of about 7,000 nautical miles. As that aircraft was taking off, it made a speedy turn to avoid the fire from the Americans. After pulling up, it stalled, crashing into the lagoon and exploding. Not one bullet hit the aircraft, but the Japanese aircrew decided to maneuver around to avoid risk. Miraculously, 35 Japanese men survived this attack. Actions against the Royal Navy in 1965, during the Irish Civil War, units of the Irish Republican Army laid in wait for the HMS Brave Borderer, which at the time was the world's fastest ship in the world, going at a max speed of 55 knots. The unit attempted to strike the vessel in Waterford Harbor, but lots of civilians were there, which deterred them. Later, when the ship departed port, they decided they would open fire. The Irish Republican Army team that was leading this attack on the Borderer later said that they were not doing this to hurt or cause any casualties. It was purely political, as they were feuding with the British at the time. The first shot was a direct hit, which blew a large hole in the ship's side. Within 30 seconds, the ship was in action stations, and was beginning to charge for the open sea away from the ambush zone. The boy's AT rifle gunner fired a second shot, which blew another large hole in the ship's side, and she then started taking on lots of water. With the ship now gaining distance, going around 55 knots, the shooter rammed in one last round, firing it from the shoulder. This shot caused a massive explosion in a plume of water where the vessel was. The unit later claimed that the ship was sunk, although this was not their intent. In fact, the ship was not sunk, however it was heavily damaged. The ship returned to Britain, where she was repaired in a few months. Well, that's the end of this video, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this short little documentary on the boy's anti-tank rifle. I mean, I think I did. I think I did a pretty good job with it. Anyway, leave a comment with what gun you'd like to hear about next. See you guys later.